Good morning and welcome to our newest episode of What's on the Horizon. I'm Lori Sharonbrock and I'm here with Chris Schucker, owner of Digital Horizons. And today I want to talk a little bit about lighting. So, in the Experience Center, that kitchen is probably my favorite space. And I love it that, just at the touch of a button, you can do, really cool lighting settings. How do you do that?
Yeah. So in our office, we have what's called a lighting control system.
Okay.
And technically there's two ways to do lighting control. There's a wireless lighting and then there's centralized lighting, and we'll go into that. But we actually have both at our office here because it was just more cost effective. In some of the areas of our building, it made more sense to do a wireless option, and then the rest we did centralized. But effectively, it's just a system that we're using to control the lights, and the keypad that you saw has scenes programmed onto it. Think of it like presets in your vehicle. When you want to go to your favorite radio station, you hit the number 3.
Yes.
You've programmed a preset, you've programmed a scene to tell your radio to go to 107.5 or whatever it is you listen to. And so on that keypad, we have buttons on there. The top one is the button you press most of the time, which turns the lights on to the mode you would use it 90% of the time, which is generally on. And then we have a cooking scene, which you press that button and all the lights turn on. We have some nice under cabinet lights, and it creates a nice, very bright area for cooking. And then we have an entertain scene. So you hit that button and the lights are more subdued. The under cabinet lights go blue, I think, and it's kind of this nice chill entertain scene. And then you have one button and it turns all the lights off. And so it's called a lighting control system because we're controlling the lights. And it just every system is different, but that's what's going on.
That's amazing. I know that we just recently remodeled our kitchen, and I feel like we put in 20 outlets, and there were different switches and they had to be moved, and it was horrible. Why should people stop doing that?
So one of the benefits of doing lighting control is you minimize the amount of switches that are necessary. So the two different versions of lighting control, there's wireless and there's centralized. Centralized is the most complicated version, so I'll go over that first. In a centralized lighting system, you get rid of traditional switches. There's no more switches anywhere. What ends up happening is your lighting circuits, and what I mean by that is, let's say you have a set of recessed cans in your kitchen.
Yep.
And let's say there's 6 of them, and they're all wired together so that they all either turn on or off, or they can be dimmed somewhere in between. And instead of that wiring going to a switch and then to your electrical panel, they skip the switch and they're wired all the way back to the mechanical room, and that's where we provide what's called a lighting panel. And in that lighting panel, there's a series of lighting modules, and that wire lands on a module, and then we're talking to the module to tell it what to do in our programming.
Sure.
So when I told you there's no switches, there are no switches, but we replace your bank of switches, and there, as you know, you can have 3, 4, 5, 6 switches in a single area. Those are gone. No more switches. You would have a single keypad, sometimes multiple depending on how many circuits there are. And then there's buttons on those keypads that correspond to what you want to do with the lights in that area. We really adhere to keep it simple, stupid process, where even though we might have some rooms that have 4, 6, or 8 circuits of lights, we still try to keep the amount of buttons on the keypad as minimal as possible.
Sure.
So when you walk in the room, you have a nice big button that turns everything on, and then maybe a couple smaller buttons that do scenes for common configurations. So what it does is it makes that room easier to operate, and then it minimizes the amount of devices in that room so that the wall clutter is minimized. So then outside of centralized lighting, there's a wireless option, and it's kind of a misnomer because there's still wires involved.
Sure.
But that's the terminology for it. And the way that works is, instead of what we refer to as dumb switches, we replace the dumb switches with smart switches or dimmers, and then the same type of programming can occur. So if you have an existing house maybe and you want to add lighting control to it, you can work with us. We'll come in and we'll figure out what devices need to be changed out. That process will occur, and then we come in and we program them to do the lighting control and do the scenes and things like that you want. We often, on probably 10% of the projects that we do lighting control, we do the whole house, maybe 10 or 20%. And then the rest are some sort of combination, either partial home centralized lighting, partial home wireless lighting, or in some cases a combination of both. And the times that we use both, it's usually where the home started off as a centralized lighting, where it was part of it was centralized, and then the homeowner really, really, really liked it. And then we do the rest of the home under a wireless scenario where, and it's usually like the guest bedrooms or some lower, other rooms in the home that are less used, and we add it in later. It always occurs where we get brought in to do a lighting control system, and it's the main areas, the great room, the kitchen, the dining room, because they want it to look nice and clean. They don't want a bunch of switches, maybe some outside lights, things like that. And I'm up front, I'm like, you're going to want to do this through the whole house. Just do it now because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
No, we'll wait. We don't want to do it now, and they don't understand how convenient, how powerful it is, how clean it can look. And so often we get brought back in a year or two after the homeowner's been in the house. Now they want to add it to the rest, and let's add it in. So lighting control also enables a lot of really neat things too. And one of my favorites that we didn't talk about is called vacation mode. So vacation mode, when it's enabled, will actually it keeps a log of how you use the lights for about a week's time. And then if you turn on vacation mode because you're leaving, it will then recreate how you use the lights for that previous period, which makes it look like your home is lived in.
Yeah.
So if someone's going by on the boat or going by on the road and they see a light turn on, it makes it look like somebody is there. It makes the house look lived in.
Yeah.
I love vacation mode, and it takes almost no effort on our part. We just have to enable it for the system, and then put a button on one of the keypads near the exit of the home, and you literally hit vacation. Little light lights up, and then your home, the lights just constantly, because you could be gone all winter. If you want it to run all winter, it will do that until you turn vacation mode off. The other neat thing is scheduled lighting. So you can have, and exterior lights are the most common for this. You can have your landscape lights, you could have your garage lights, it could be your front entry lights, it could be your lakeside lights. They just turn on at sunset, an hour before sunset. Then they turn off at 12, they turn off at 1 a.m. You can have them run until sunrise. It's completely up to you. The other nice thing to do is landscape lights, but just generally outside lights, just having them on a schedule is fantastic. We've been in our office now for over 3 years. I've never once turned my outside lights on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of an incredible point to make. Some people might think, oh, lighting control, that's a fancy frou-frou thing. But it really can come down to safety. I mean, especially when you talk about vacation mode and what you can do outdoors. I mean, that goes a long way towards just your home's security.
Yeah, it really makes it look like the home is lived in. And of course, we install security systems.
Sure.
But having the combination of lights being turned on as well as those other things it's really, really, really effective. The other thing that's really nice is like pathway lights inside the home.
Okay.
Those can be set to scheduled timers too. So going up and down stairs, things like that, you could have those turn on. The other neat thing that you can do that's really fun is we call it midnight snack mode. So if you have a keypad on the nightstand in the master bedroom, you can hit midnight snack and it will illuminate the pathway to the kitchen just at a really low level, because when it's 2 a.m. and you're hungry, you don't want a lot of lights. No. You just hit that button, it'll illuminate the pathway, and then it can automatically shut off. It can stay on until 5 a.m. or when you get back, you can just hit your snack button and the lights turn off, and outside of some ham missing from the crisper, nobody knew you were in the kitchen. So there's some really cool things you can do. And then of course, if it's part of an actual automation system, one of the common things that we do is we'll tie it to the status of the security system.
Sure.
So when you disarm the security system, a certain lights turn on. Maybe the main area, great room, whatever, is just illuminated for you. So if you're coming up and you disarm it on your way up, the lights are already on when you get home. Or when you leave and you're going to bed at night, you arm the security system. We can have all the lights turn off, and it can be. It's a time saver. It's a convenience thing, but it's funny to say as somebody who's for everything that we do, I'm most passionate about audio, but I like lighting control the most out of anything we do, because it's the thing that for the people that we install it with, it's the thing that they use most in their home, period. More than water faucets, more than anything in the home, they interact with the lighting more than anything, and adding convenience and an aesthetic improvement to the home. It's my favorite thing that we do.
Yeah, it's interesting too when you talk about vacation mode. It reminds me of one of our family's favorite movies, Home Alone, and how the robbers were able to like time everything to everybody's lights turning on. And I think that's probably why that vacation mode is nice, because it's not the same time every day, I would imagine. And so because everybody, if
you might have a similar process for your home, but you're never turning on the dining room lights at 6 p.m. every single day. So when it mimics how you're there actually using the home, it's like somebody's there, because it's a different process every day.
So you don't have to worry if you left Kevin at home that they're gonna come. It's still one of the
best. Built-in Kevin.
It's built-in Kevin. I like the way. Maybe that's what we should name the system. That'd be a good name.
That's good.
That'd be a good name for it. Well, thank you for that. That was really something that I hadn't considered, and how lighting is so important, more than just like seeing how you're chopping your tomatoes. I mean, it's really a big deal in your house.
And the one thing that I'll point out is, or I'll want to mention is, this needs to be brought up early.
Sure.
So if you're building a home and you want the minimum amount of lights to be controlled by this, bring it up with your contractor or even your architect as soon as possible, because especially if you're doing a centralized lighting system, it's wired differently.
Yeah.
And the electrician, depending on their experience and what they've done in the past, they may not know what to do. And so doing a centralized lighting system takes planning, takes some coordination. There is some added costs involved on the electrician side. It's not just on our part, because they do have things to do that has to be done differently. They do have to run a little bit different wire than they might run otherwise for lighting. It's kind of a technical thing, but the gauges of wire have to remain constant throughout the circuit, so there's some planning that has to be done there. And then it's drawn differently on the floor plans too. You don't draw the lighting circuits the same way, and there's usually a legend and some numbering of the circuits that goes along. And it sounds really complex and complicated. It's very straightforward for us. It's stuff we do all the time. I'd be really surprised if the architect that you're working with, if you have one, isn't familiar with it already. But the centralized portion takes a little bit more effort. Wireless a little bit less so, but the sooner you can bring it up, the better, because it does have an impact that needs to be accounted for very early on in the process.
I mean, I think that's why it's a good point to say, it's good to research this ahead of time and reach out to you to talk about that. How should we do that?
So you can call us, is the best way to do it, 218-330-4140, or just visit our website, which is digitalhorizonsmn.com.
Awesome. Well, I've loved this conversation. I learned a lot. So thank you for that. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.